we do a serious one.
Yeah.
So joining you live from the World Championship 2023 in Barcelona, the Living Legend podcast.
Let's get started. How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Living Legends podcast. I said that weird, but I'm just one take Marty. We're going to keep going. My name is Kel, and welcome. We're going to be talking about some fun things that we would like to see in Flesh and Blood today. Joining me, as always, we have Bill from the Spike Feeders and also the Living Legends podcast. How's it going, Bill?
That is me. I am Bill from the Spike Feeders and also the Living Legends podcast. The Living Legends.
Opening is cursed. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah. I'm excited for this additional discussion that we're having. Again, full disclosure, this is what we filmed alongside the last two episodes as well. So we're riding high on how we ranked all of the heroes and how they would help you move.
That's right.
But we're not quite out of things to discuss yet. We do have something really cool that was actually thrown out there by the next one in line as. So why don't you introduce yourself and also our topic?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it feels quite unnatural to keep asking each other who we are and how we are doing, because we have been sat here for the last 3 episodes, unbeknownst to the audience.
They don't know that. They don't know that. Well, they definitely do know that. Yeah,
we're all wearing the same clothes. So for the visual viewers, they know that this is a botched job. It's all recorded in the same day.
I changed the background for every video. Okay.
Oh, good, you did.
Yeah, we have Azalea for this one. So yeah.
Oh yes, fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, the topic that we're going to be discussing today is what we'd like to potentially see from Flesh and Blood going forward. Maybe some ideas or some stuff that we'd like to see, because I think it's a good little speculation discussion, because we've had a few things come out recently which have been a big negative. So now let's go into the positive thoughts and sort of get that back out into the aether as well. So yeah, should be a fun one.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
As with the previous episodes, we wanted to keep them a little bit shorter. They ended up both being an hour long each. So we'll see how this one goes. We're gonna try to make it a little bit shorter, but we'll see. So let's just kind of like get started with it, I think. And the general question is like what we would like to see in Flesh and Blood. Both as fans, as players. And do any of you guys have any like immediately strong feelings either way? I know recently as you played a like PvE module, right?
That's right, yeah. So that's what kind of sparked this whole thing, because I really want to see some development on PvE from official support from LSS regarding it, because I played something which has been floating around in the aether recently. I think Sloop Dupe did a video with the developers, and also Greg, Darth Prentice, on his channel. I was actually on his channel recently because I played the PvE module Overlord, which you also know about, don't you, Bill? I think you've mentioned it a couple of times in this chat before. Maybe I think some of your community members have also played it. But yeah, it's really, really cool. Lots of cool sort of board game esque sort of scenarios. I think there could be a lot added to it, which I can go into in a bit. But yeah, really decent cooperative experience there, which you can just play any hero, just sling some cards. Maybe it's not as interactive from the boss's perspective because it's an auto-piloted deck. So you might just go into it thinking, oh yeah, if we can just race it, then we're going to win quicker. So I think a couple of things need to be added, like interactive things that strip cards from your hand or add tax effects, etc. But it's hard to explain without you experiencing it beforehand, as to trying to explain it to you. But
do the bosses have breakpoints? Like, do they do certain things at certain health thresholds? Because I think that could help a lot. That's what the Onyxia's Lair raid deck for the World of Warcraft trading card game had. At certain like health intervals, she changes and gets more abilities. And then when it happens, she does a thing. And one of them is like she just kills all allies or units on the board when she does it. So you can't just keep aggroing her down because she does like a reset at some point. And I think stuff like that helps make it more challenging and more interactive. Like in addition to other things.
Yeah, so the boss every turn the boss will change stance. So it'll start off in an aggressive stance. Now the stance dictates what hero it attacks. So the furious stance means it attacks the player with the most health, and the other players can't block for it. So different stances that the boss goes into will sort of determine how it acts with the players. But from what I experienced, there's only one thing. When the boss changes stances, there was one event where it did damage to all the players, equal to the number of barricades it had out. I think it needs more things like that, where random events happen and maybe constant events will stay out. Maybe even like Spectra-esque effects, where you as a team have to discuss, right, we need to attack that thing, not the actual boss this turn, because it's accruing value or doing this to us, etc. So yeah, without you playing it, you identified one of the main things straight away. But yeah, we do need. I think it does need more stuff like that. I don't know whether the developers will hear this. I'm not sure whether they follow us or not. But yeah, it was really, really good fun. So it was me, Mansant, Dylan from Gorganian Tome, and then Greg all sat down to play a round of it, and it was live as well. So it's on his Twitch channel. So people can go and watch it. I think he's going to be doing more as well. So yeah, it should be fun. But I don't know what your guys' thoughts on PvE is.
Yeah, I guess I can. My thoughts on PvE are, I want PvE. I think everyone wants PvE. I think that's like and I think that's the problem. So the thing, okay, let me break this down a little bit. So I think PvE will be amazing for the game. I think it is a really good idea. Not a lot of card games do it, and the card games that did do it had really cool and fun interactive things. Like I mentioned the World of Warcraft raid decks. I own the Onyxia's Lair. I have the Ice Crown Citadel raid decks. I think they're great, and I think they're really well designed. Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn has a like a PvE mode, which is also great. Keyforge has a PvE mode, which I think is also great. And then there are also other games that are more PvE centric, like Arkham Horror and stuff. And I think cooperative centric. And I think those are all fantastic. And I think they help get people into the game and help like people experience the game and the mechanics in a more like casual friendly. I don't say casual friendly, in a more social friendly environment where you can like play with buddies and have a good time. Without having to be competitive. There's no one who loses, right? Everyone wins, and it's a fun time. With that said, I think there's so much hype behind it because it's such a good idea and because people want it so much that there's a lot of pressure on Legend Story Studios to both make it and make it really good. And I have a feeling it's like a Half-Life 3 kind of situation where like, when it comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed, like either like no matter what. Like I think so many people want so many different things that someone's going to be like disappointed by it. Unless it's like revolutionary, right? I think people are expecting so much that it's like it's going to be really, really hard to live up to the hype. And I think that might also be one of the reasons why they haven't released one yet, because at some degree, I think they might know that. And I think they're like, we can't release a subpar product. It has to blow everyone away. And yeah, that's my thoughts on PvE. I want it, but I think there's a lot of pressure on LSS to make it amazing, like beyond amazing, like revolutionary for the game. That's my thoughts. Yeah.
I play a lot of PvE style card games.
Me too,
like
actually.
Slay the Spire, Monster Train, a bunch of others that are escaping me right now.
So like my favorite modes. So sorry to cut you off, Bill, but I just want to add on to it because I think it's a good comparison. I like the Hearthstone single player modes. I like the Legends of Runeterra single player mode, and I like the Shadowverse single player mode. So I actually actively play all of those. Well, I don't actively play like right now, but I really enjoy those. So I'm going to tack those on with what Bill was saying, because those are games that have they're competitive games that have like PvE modes added to them that were really good. And I personally really love. So
Yeah, I also play. I've mentioned this like multiple times on the podcast at this point. I've played Legends of Runeterra. The Path of Champions is the single player mode. I play it very frequently, like at least once a week. Actually, at least twice a week. For a long time now, because the weeklies reset on Mondays, and there's weekly challenges that reset on Mondays, and then weekly quests that reset on Wednesdays. So I at least play Monday, Wednesday, and then there's also like a monthly challenge that's like overarching that sometimes I'll grind out just to get some additional like resources and something. But
I see you, devs. That's a sneaky way to get you to play more than once a week. To have the resets on multiple days. Yeah,
it works. It works. I've been playing the game for quite a long. I think it's the game that I've played the most consistently at this point. Like maybe ever. I've been playing it for a long time at this point. I have every champion unlocked. Almost all of them are 3 stars. And not all of them are close to level 30, but I'm getting there. But yeah, I do. This is like belaboring the point a little bit, but I do like PvE modes like a lot. And I think all of them that I've tried have something that keeps them sort of unique or implements their game mechanics in a very interesting way. And I think that that there is a lot of that design space that exists within Flesh and Blood that I'm excited to see them do stuff with. And I do think that right now they're sort of suffering from the problem of building it up. Like they haven't necessarily built it up. It's the community that's sort of bringing itself to a froth, to a frenzy about like, oh, this could be really cool. Like exactly what I'm saying. This could be really cool. But it's like, none of us have a way to like there are probably people who have speculated, and of course there are people who've even put it into fruition, people behind Overlord, like what PvE could look like. And it's like, okay, but what are they actually going to do? What's something that's going to be something that they can put on a shelf in a store and like sell to people that's just either like contained within a box, like maybe they do a round the table type thing where there's like a deck for the E and then decks for the players, you know, like
that's what the Ice Crown Citadel product is, by the way. If you don't know what it is a Lich King deck. That's the bot. Well, there's the Lich King deck, and there's like multiple bosses in there. But then there's 4 pre-constructed decks that it comes with as well. Or 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly how it is, but yeah, it comes with decks.
Like something that I've mentioned as well, probably multiple times, is I do think that their PvE could work really well, especially if they do it something similar to something that Magic was doing for a while. I think only for like a set or 2. But something that I thought had a ton of potential that they just completely abandoned was these like it was like, oh, you can face the Hydra. This was back in Theros block in like 2011 or whatever. But there were PvE decks that you would just have somebody with the deck just flip over a card every turn, and it's like, okay, this thing happens, and you have to like either rush down the Hydra. It was also really cool because during the pre-release events, if you did specific things, like if you basically got certain achievements, like, oh, I killed my opponent before turn 10, or I dealt 10 damage in a game or whatever, you could get promo cards that were equipment that you could bring into that fight and make it a little bit easier. And like, I thought that was such a cool idea, and then they just completely abandoned it. So I think that something like that could very easily exist. And that's sort of what I'm thinking as well. They just have a deck that has like actions or whatever, and the actions are way overtuned, but they're only for this product. And it'll be like, okay, attack everybody for 6 simultaneously. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, that puts on a lot of pressure. And like, I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's important to sort of set your expectations accordingly, though, and maybe sort of talk yourself down from like, this is going to be a game changer, whatever. Because then, you know, if they do something that's slightly less than your original expectations, then you're like, okay, well, I was prepared for this, whatever. And then if they exceed your expectations, then cool. Then you're excited and you're surprised. But
I think
shooting for the moon is setting yourself up for disappointment, I think.
I think PvE could potentially, because of the way Flesh and Blood is set up with this hero-centric game and all of this, I think PvE has the power, similar to how the Round the Table product had, of introducing new players more so than an armory deck or the armory deck line will ever do. Because if you're marketing a PvE product as, you can play this around the table with your mates, you're playing against a pre-constructed deck, but you're still playing Flesh and Blood, you still got the mechanics there. There's no feel bad of high exclusive cards and all this. We've had that discussion already. That it's just a fun experience that you can play and get introduced with Flesh and Blood. And maybe in that box there's a booklet that says, "Do you know you can play Blitz? You can play CC." Because those especially CC, which is why the KO got so much controversy, is I think CC and the people that want to play competitive Flesh and Blood will discover it themselves, but the people that don't discover it themselves could discover it via a product like this, which will cater to people that are not competitive. It's just a perfect gateway into many things, and it's something that I've mentioned before is cooperative games like Pandemic and those sorts of board games are a gateway into playing huge sprawling games that take a long time. It's like a gateway game, as they say. So I think Flesh and Blood could operate on that axis as well, rather than trying to force a CC deck into a new player, which is then not getting value and all of the other controversies surrounding it. I think there's like Round the Table did. We all know how well that did, and that probably introduced a lot of people into the game as well, right? So
yeah, I think Round the Table is the best sealed product or pre-constructed product that they've ever made. But yeah, the PvE thing is going to be really tricky because I feel to some degree that one of the baseline things that you need, and not just like a personal want, but I think this is just one of the things that it just has to do, is it has to have at least some form of replayability. Like you can't just play it once and have if you play it the second time, it's literally the same experience. I think you need to have some sort of replayability to it. Either that means having a separate, PvE deck with like different, potential encounters or something, or some sort of variation, but it needs to have like some sense of longevity, right?
I think also you can also have that, like the Overlord engine, for instance, has like 8 or 10 different bosses you can face that have different things they do, but also the variability of Flesh and Blood is that you could have maybe not in the intro box or product, but you've got a load of different heroes you can use, and you can also even in the new products, you could say, right, you can play this PvE module by buying a Blitz deck that's on the shelf.
Yeah.
So you can also cross promote other products that might be in the store that are just rotting away, that the sort of Blitz and CC players will never touch because they're not products for them. But you can cross sell it in this product as well by saying, you can pick up a Blitz deck that the Outsiders ones or the History Pack ones or whatever. You can just add that into your box, similar to how you'd be able to do the same thing with the Round the Table product. You can just pick up the Blitz decks and put them in the same box, and they're playable. It's just making the use of all those poor stores that have Blitz decks stuck on their shelves that aren't being used. That not necessarily people that engage with Flesh and Blood might be like, oh yeah, I'm loving the PvE. I'll just go pick up that Prism deck that's on the shelf. It might not be very good, but it's just another hero that I can play with, sort of thing. I think there's lots of possibilities for it.
Yeah, it's hard to say where they are with PvE right now. It feels like they're not really making it a priority. No. Every time James is asked about it, he says like it's not ready yet and it's not their focus, which to me that's like the nice way of saying we're not working on it. So like I don't know when we'll see it. I assume there is still an if we'll see, like I assume we'll still see it at some point. It's just kind of like a when rather than an if. Their initial words, how they when they spoke about it initially, it was like they wanted to have an experience that you could like share with your friends, and I think they said something along the lines of like campaign or something. So it did feel like it's like a bigger in scope than just like a boss, like a boss rush thing. But once again, I don't want people to get their hopes up too much. I know what I would personally really love, but it's asking a lot. What I would like is basically like a Flesh and Blood board game where it's like, you explore different regions of Wraith and different bosses and different encounters as you progress through the areas, and you could have like each module would be a different region. So and they could coincide with like whatever the set is. So like maybe return to the pits with Outsiders 2, and it's like, here's the pits module, and you start off in Blackjack's Tavern, and you take a contract, and you go do the contract. But there's like a bunch of different contracts, so you can have like a whole bunch of different scenarios. Like that's what I would.
Well, I think it also.
But that,
absolutely.
Might be asking too much.
Yeah, that'll be the dream scenario to have something like that where you have a board and all this. But I think if there was a PvE mode that you could play with a variety of different boss decks, and obviously there's expansions that come out of every new release. What that also does is, again, I've touched on it already, it helps sell the other products that come out with that release, like the BLITZ decks, for instance. You know, we all see, I've said it already, the products that are on the store shelves aren't being used or aren't being bought. It helps the fact that the PvE mode could also help the sales of the other things that are out there as well. I think it could be really good. I'm not sure. I think you was going to say something before as well, Bill. Was you going to say something else before we?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think that PvE is a fantastic idea. I hope that, actually what I was going to say was it feels like it's extremely likely that the product itself, the reason that they're not giving like a solid release date or anything is they don't want to overpromise, and they also probably have gone through a couple of iterations of what it looks like at this point.
Yeah.
Like this feels like a project that it's very likely that they've burnt it to the ground and restarted more than once.
Yeah.
Just been like, yeah, we're going to do a PvE thing, and then they start up something and they're like, this doesn't go anywhere. This doesn't have like that replayability that we want or whatever. So yeah, it feels like they're just putting resources elsewhere until they can really come up with their $1 million idea.
I went ahead and I found the what they wrote. So this was in the Fab 2.0 article a while ago, right? This was like a year or two ago.
Oh wow.
So it's been a while. So this is what they wrote about PvE, and I think this is like the only thing we've ever officially seen on the website other than James mentioning it in random interviews. So it's not a lot. So Player versus Environment, PvE, will be our flagship social play product. This is before Around the Table. It will see players band together in campaign settings that can be as long or as short as your party wants. It's not about winning or losing, but having an epic adventure with friends and fellow gamers where swords, shields, pizza, and beers collide. We are putting a lot into PvE, and our expectation, along with that of many eagerly awaiting fans, is very high. PvE is currently under development, and we are working hard to make it as good as possible. More information will be announced in the future. This was like I said, this was a couple of years ago.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, Fab 2.0, a couple of years ago, before the Round of the Table product came out, and they did say that this would be their flagship social play product, and they mentioned words like campaign setting, epic adventure. Like these are words that make me feel like they want to do what I just said, like have like an awesome setting where you're trekking through various things in Flesh and Blood world, in the world of Wraith. But at the same time,
like
we've had James White. Yeah. At the same time, we had James White say, we're not actively, it's not a concern right now.
Again, I do feel like the reason that they would do that and not be as focused is probably because they've had to retool it a couple times. I would not be surprised if that was the case. Obviously, that's total speculation. I don't have insider information about the PvE product. I wish I did. That'd be cool. Yeah. but yeah, it feels like this is something that might be a bit of a moving target to just make it work within Flesh and Blood, make it work within the current state of the game and the player base.
Flesh and Blood, when I was scrolling through this, it feels like Flesh and Blood is also just kind of like in somewhat of a transitional period right now. Either that or they've kind of put some of these ideas in Flesh and Blood 2.0 on a back burner. And this can like transition from PvE into another want that I would like to have. Because one of the big points here in this is it says part 2, playing the game is about more than competitive play, which currently seems to be their main focus, like competitive play. And I would like to see more focus on less competitive play stuff. And what I mean by that is like not wanting more like casual play products and decks and stuff, because one of the big points here has to do with lore and storytelling and character development, and it's something we really haven't seen much of at all recently. And
No.
like one of the big points, it's all in bold. It says more storytelling, world building, character development, and integration of lore into the play experience. And they talk about investing into characters we have come to know and love. We've been sort of seeing that with like competitive support, like, you know, like Bolton gets new cards and, you know, Levi gets new cards, but it doesn't feel like they're getting more lore. It's just more competitive cards. And another big point, it literally says publishing more lore, including books. And we also have not seen that at all. They even mention a follow-up guide to the art book, the Welcome to Wraith World Guide Volume 1. They mentioned a follow-up to that. And then it says products that offer play experience that bring fans adventures, conflicts, and story arcs that are happening within the world of Wraith. So it feels like a lot of that stuff is either maybe being worked on and not talked about, or on the back burner. And either way, regardless of what is actually happening right now, that is one of my personal big wants. That's what I would like to see more from Legend Story Studios and Flesh and Blood. I would like more lore, more character development. Doesn't have to be a full-blown novel, but it would be cool to get like more short stories, novellas, you know, character integration, you know, that kind of stuff. Beyond like your Morlock Hill card in the expansion slot. I want more than that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on the way Wizards did it, I think, or maybe on an episode fairly recently, because they do the first week they show the story 1, then story 2, then story 3. Even if it's something like that, you know, it's just, you know, you can tune in each week. It's like a soap opera. You can see where the story's going, and just keeps, you know, the lore part of it and the flavor part of it engaged.
It. I mean, like Magic or not. They have been doing like a good job keeping up with their story. Once again, whether you like the story or not, the fact that they're doing it, I think, is at least commendable to some degree, right? They do have, you know, they put out the Outlaws of Story Junction or Outlaws of Thunder Junction story. You know, they're probably going to do like a big story with like Bloomborough coming out, which is like the Magic's version of Redwall. If you don't know that, the animals, they're all like cute little animals and stuff. I think it looks cute. Yeah. But so like, I would love to see that with Flesh and Blood. That's one of the big things that I personally would like. And I think it would help me, like, and not just me, but like be more engaged with the game during periods where like I'm not really vibing with like the meta or like the sets or whatever that's coming out. Like still getting the lore and being able to read up on it, I think is like would help keep me engaged. So, and I know, like I said, not just for me, but like for a lot of other players or people just in general. So
there is such a huge market that is out there for story-based, lore-based games that are just casual PvE, not competitive, not 1% converting to top 8 and all of this. There is a huge market for that. It needs to be expanded on.
I came up with a good analogy, and it's an analogy that we've made before, but in a different way and a more supportive way. So like I want to bring up the analogy with Dark Souls again. But not in the way that you normally think, like, oh, Dark Souls, it's hard, get good, you know, that kind of stuff. I want to bring it up in the way that people love Dark Souls, and people love Dark Souls because of the challenging aspect, because it respects you as a player and as a person, but also because it has really deep and interesting lore. And I think it's because it does both of these things simultaneously is why so many people really, really love the game, why people still play it and talk about it years and years and years after its initial release. It's because of like this mesh of lore and gameplay, right? And you can have the people who only play it for the gameplay. They do like speed runs and challenges and all that kind of stuff. But you also have the people who literally have YouTube channels like with millions of subscribers, and all they do is talk about how sad the lore is or whatever, right? You have your Vati Vidya, even I'll call her a friend of the podcast because Asana, she's been on my channel before, Miss Chalice, right? Who has now become a very popular YouTuber talking about Souls lore. And I want to bring that analogy to Flesh and Blood because Flesh and Blood does have that super competitive, you know, like, I don't want to say try hard side, but it does have that side, right, of it where it's like, this is competitive. It's very like mechanics, nuts and bolts, challenging, all this kind of stuff. And it does have great lore, but they don't focus on it, and they don't highlight it and make it a big part like Dark Souls does. Dark Souls doesn't focus on it, but it's there, right? It's there for the people who want to engage with it. And I feel like
if you want to explore it,
yeah. I feel like it's not really there for Flesh and Blood right now. There's a little bit there, but it's like surface stuff, right? And there's a little bit of stories here or there, but a lot of them have dead ends. Like they don't go anywhere. And it would just be great to expand upon that. So that's one of my big wants is lore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if anyone feels the same, but I love the world of Flesh and Blood, man, and I love what they're doing, and I want more.
I think Kale agrees with you at the very least.
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Art. Shout out to our buddy Dead Summer Art. Yeah.
I think
we love lore so much. We literally made our own lore in the D&D campaign. Like, yeah.
Yeah. But I think between what me and you were saying, it's like it's more tailored towards the casual audience, the people that just want to have fun in the world of Wraith. Lore and PvE are things you can really sort of tie down to the casual audience, people that want to play with their friends and explore the story and the characters. That is pretty much what we do most of the time. So
I want to bring up another thing that just happened. So Viz Media recently announced that they're going to be releasing the Destroy All Humans, They Cannot Be Regenerated Magic the Gathering manga. And so this is like a manga that's been ongoing in Japan. It's a Magic the Gathering manga. I've heard so much about it, and I'm actually like incredibly excited for it. This is going to be one of the must-buy Magic the Gathering products for me for the year. I might not even buy any card product, but I'm definitely buying this. And I think that shows just how strong lore and story can be for a game, right?
Oh yeah.
So just wanted to throw that out there. Also, I'm really excited for it. It's super cool. So Magic manga. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, how awesome would it be if there was like a Flesh and Blood manga? Dude, how awesome would it be if they for Part the Mistveil, they released like a one-shot manga? That would be like the coolest shit of all time, man. Like if they're like, hey, Flesh and Blood's coming to Japan. Here's a manga, like both in Japanese and in English with the characters, and that would be like the pinnacle.
Would be.
Yeah.
That would have been absolutely ridiculous.
If you need ideas, LSS, yo, I'm here, man. I got some ideas. Anyway, I'm not sure how much it would cost. It's probably pretty expensive, but like there's like some brilliant manga artists and writers out there who could probably be using some work, and just hire them, man. Like make it great. Anyway, I have faith. So,
what do you reckon, Bill? Anything you want to see added, or any thoughts on any of the stuff that we've said so far?
My answers are not going to be a surprise to anybody who's been listening to us for any amount of time. I want like two things. One, it's more transmogrify style buff effects. Ones specifically that modify base power. That's like that's my if I have to be a choosy beggar, you know, I want more transmogrify style effects that modify base power. And I think we're going to be getting this next one relatively soon. I think I want better ways to block arcane damage. Just things that, because like you look at the difference between regular block cards and cards that have arcane barrier or spell void or anything like that, and they just kind of don't match up. There's a pretty big difference between the utility of arcane barrier cards versus the actual utility of block cards. Like you look at even just like feet, like shoes. If you want something that blocks arcane damage in the shoe slot, you have Null Rune boots, you have like Tide flippers, maybe a third thing, but like it's, I mean, like you could, the quelling slippers.
Yeah, there's some other random stuff that can do it, but yeah.
But like none of them are good. Meanwhile, like you have things that block and that do crazy things. Like obviously with a lot of them, it's one or the other because they have blade break. But like spellbound creepers.
I think it's like I think there's a fundamental like design disparity between blocking and arcane barrier that just doesn't mesh super well right now with Flesh and Blood. And I think it's because they designed arcane really, really early on. It was literally in the second set. And it's because like every card in Flesh and Blood outside of like, you know, instants and items or whatever can block for 2 or 3, right? Every single card can do that. Regardless of your armor. So you have all these cards that do that innately, and then you also have your armor. But Arcane Barrier is different, right? Arcane Barrier says, my armor now kind of makes my cards prevent arcane damage, but not very much, right? They have to, it only does it depending on how much they pitch for, right? And you don't get that doubling down. That's why armor is like so good, because you have, like Bill said, you have the armor that does things in addition to blocking, and you have your cards that do things in addition to blocking. But Arcane Barrier is like, no, your Arcane Barrier equipment, for the most part, there's like, you know, some of them have effects or whatever, just does that. And it makes like your other cards like sort of into block cards, but only if they're like blues, right? If they're block 3 if they're a blue. And it's just kind of like this weird disparity where it's kind of similar. You can see where they were going with it, like trying to do the numbers where like it kind of lines up, but it just doesn't feel great. And it has like this weird like disconnect. I feel like eventually they might print cards that have a block value for arcane, like just on the card. Like I think they might like just make a card
instead of physical block, they have arcane block or something.
Yeah, like magic blockers. Yeah, something like that.
And I think at this stage we are okay with what we currently have, but especially with the prospect of on the horizon there's an all arcane set. Yeah, we are like woefully underprepared.
I think we're okay because there's only a couple heroes, and those like Kano, for example, right? Kano operates in a very specific space, and people have played against Kano and know how he works enough that they can have a kind of a plan against him. But that's like, he's like one hero. What happens when there's like eight like Kanos, you know, like, and they're all doing different types of stuff.
And like the thing that makes Kano so crazy is like, if you're not prepared for Kano, you basically lose the matchup.
Yeah, you're dead.
You're dead. If you go to a big tournament and you don't have the arcane barrier like contingency and you get matched up against a Kano, you die. It is just like a fact.
Unless he like whiffs horribly.
Yeah.
Like
unless Kano just
like, he's got the
draws
worst luck.
Awful.
You're dead, dude. Like he just kills you.
But like if you are unable to interact with a Kano with what they're trying to do, then you die. And like that's sort of it's very similar in Blitz, obviously with Kano, but also to like on the flip side with like somebody like Benji. Benji has a very streamlined, straightforward game plan, and it's to attack you with a bunch of things so that you can't block from hand with, or attack you with a bunch of things that you can't block with cards from your hand. But like if you're prepared and you have Ironhide equipment, then that matchup is like really easily in your favor.
Or if you're just a guardian and can block for 1 million anyway.
Or if you're just a guardian. Like there are ways to play around it, but I think where the lines get much more blurred and it becomes more difficult is with somebody like Briar or like just Runeblades in general, that have split damage. Split damage is something that I don't think the game currently has a lot of very good ways to deal with. And my argument for that is that while it was legal, Rosetta Thorn was the strongest weapon in the game.
It was really good. Like I don't think that's inherently bad though, but because I think it was like one of their ways that they can like help close out the game. And I think every class has like some sort of way to help push damage through. And I think that was their form of evasion, right? Instead of having dominate like Guardians do. Like the split damage was their kind of form of evasion. So I don't inherently dislike it, but I do agree that more ways to deal with arcane damage would make it better for sure.
Not even necessarily having stronger versions of things or having an overwhelmingly strong response to arcane damage. Yeah, just like options.
Yeah, not better ways, more ways.
Yeah. Like even something like Quell, but you could pay like you could pay any amount for a source of damage instead of being quell 1 where you could only pay 1 into a source of damage. It's like you can pay a flexible amount, but then it destroys itself at the end of the turn.
That's why I
think
really like the. Oh, go ahead.
That's
Sorry.
cool. Or just like up to a cap, you know, like up to 3.
Yeah, that's why I really like the new part the Misfell commons that like just prevent 1 damage. Like you like sack it and prevent a damage, and this is any damage, right? So it's kind of like your your what do you call it? It's kind of like your Iron Rot, but they can prevent, you know, damage from a zap or whatever, you know. Yeah, I like more stuff like that, and also that. It can also help against like dominate, but I'm not sure that that's the intent. But anyway, I agree with Bill.
That's
I think we are going to see some interesting design space for that as well. Because
I think so too.
If like the amp cards are anything to go by, which we touched on a couple of weeks ago, there might be even some. Probably not going to be any more amp cards in Part of the Mistveil by the time this comes out. So we're not going to miss anything there.
Yeah, we'll know. By the time this comes out, I've already literally played with the set. But
exactly, yeah. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more design space coming out because if there is a Arcane set coming out this year, it's not just going to be full of Kano combo tastic wizards. They're going to be a lot different than how Kano operates. So I think we probably will need some form of, you know, more consistent AB or way to block Arcane. So I think you probably are going to be seeing that soon, to be honest.
I mean, speaking of that set, James White has confirmed that there is going to be an Arcane set. Didn't say this year, but I have a feeling it is going to be this year. And one of my wants for that is I would like there to be, if they want to do like this kind of like 3-class structure that they've done for a lot of the sets, I think it would be cool to have that set be similar to Heavy Hitters, where you have 3 classes but 6 heroes. That way you can introduce a wider range of arcane damage dealing heroes into the pool. So you can maybe have like 2 wizards that are played pretty differently but maybe similar, and then 2 rune blades that have a similar kind of deal, and then maybe the last class is cleric or necromancer or whatever, bard, illusionist, I don't know, whatever they want to put in, that does arcane. But that's what I would like to see from that set. I would like to see a lot of heroes so we can, you know, get a nice little to widen the arcane characters to be more than just like a super niche, which is what they are right now.
Definitely. But I think that will likely wrap us up for this one, an actually short one.
Yeah.
Well, as said, he had some arsenal steps, so we'll see how long. As what do you got in your arsenal, my dude?
Hit us with it.
So I got 2 things actually. So first of all, I rewatched Rise of the Planet of the Apes recently because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes comes out soon. So there's I think there's 4 in the series with Kingdom. So there's Rise, Dawn, and then War of the 3 ones before the new one comes out. And I just remembered how I watched the first one today before we did this, and I've just remembered how awesome those films are. So yeah, definitely go and recommend going to watch those if you haven't watched those already, because a new one comes out next weekend, I think.
I'll be the
actually no, it would be out. It would be out in the cinema by now. I just realised.
I'll be the boomer and say, hey, go also watch the old ones, because those are the only ones I've seen. I've only ever seen the old ones, but with Dr. Zaius.
Yeah, 1970 or something like that. They came out, didn't they? The original ones.
There's a bunch of them. Yeah, they're kind of interesting. I think the new ones are maybe loosely following a similar plot, but the old ones, like, they bounced around different time periods. Like, you have the first one where the dude goes and is like in the Planet of the Apes, and you realize it's in the future. But then you also have the apes in a different movie going back in time, and them going back in time actually sets up the events of the first. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, it's a fun little, like, you know, sci-fi kind of thing. There's one movie where like they're worshiping like an atomic bomb. Like, I don't know. They're fun movies. They're old, and I think a lot of modern audiences will find them like slow and potentially boring. But I think they're interesting. So
yeah, definitely. And then the other thing is that I might be getting into music again. With band stuff. So I recently got myself some new instruments, which for musical heads out there, Korg is like a synthesizer, like keyboard brand, and I got 2 pieces of equipment that I used to have, but I then sold like 10 years ago, and not quite 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. But I've got those pieces of equipment back. I bought them back again because they were awesome when I used to use them, and that's a micro Korg, so it's like a synthesizer keyboard. Which I've already started writing music on. I might be starting a new channel for like ambient Blade Runner-esque sort of soundscapes. So I'm going to start writing that sort of music. I've already come up with a nice chord progression for one sort of piece I'm doing, and then I'm also going to be doing potentially getting back into a band again as well, like the whole sort of metalcore sort of style stuff, but also doing synths in that as well. So
I see opportunities for potential cross promotion.
Absolutely.
Because like people might know this, they might not know this. We have like this loosely idea for like a D&D campaign, kind of like on the back burner. That hopefully we get back to again someday. Sam Yang drew art for all of our characters, if you don't remember, and hopefully we get back to that at some point. But I just hear this and I'm like, yo, Az, you could make the music for the D&D campaign, man. Like, like you're saying, like the ambient stuff. Like, I don't know, that'd be pretty rad. Like, yeah. I could easily do some stuff like that. I mean, the sort of extra project that I'm doing, there's going to be a band thing, but there's also an extra thing that I'm doing, which is going to be like soundscapes and like droning atmospheric sounds and stuff. Which might be useful in the background of D&D campaigns, or just when you're working or whatever, just having a soundscape on in the background. I love that sort of thing. I always have stuff like on Amazon and YouTube on the background, like 8-hour loops of like Blade Runner-esque ambient noises or whatever. So yeah, I might start up something like that. So we'll see. But yeah, that was an interesting Arsenal step. Yeah, pretty cool.
Thought I'd bring that up.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Well,
yeah.
I think I was the host at the start of this. Well, okay. Well, I think that's it. Unless Bill, you have something in your arsenal that you'd like to talk about.
No, not particularly. I am, I guess, apologizing in advance, but also currently. For not having coverage of the spoilers as they're coming out, because we don't know what they are yet. So
that's right.
We will get to them as soon as we can.
Yeah, I think how this is going to work is that we'll just cover them when we get back, and we'll probably just jump in. Like our next episode will probably be like a little recap of my experiences with the world premiere event in Japan. We'll kind of quickly I'll try to go over that very, very quickly, and then we'll just maybe do our top 5 cards of the set. I think that'll line up decently well, because I think pre-release should be around now, like when this video is going live. I think this episode should be around when pre-release is, because the world premiere event would have been last weekend, and then so it should be around soon. So like doing a top 5 around pre-release should be pretty good, and like you all know what the set is. You probably know what the Fabled is. What is it? Is it a gem? Is it a location? Is it
is it good?
Is it assassin? If it's assassin, I want it either way.
At this point, you could just tell us what your spoiler cards are, right?
I mean, technically, yes. I still.
We could have actually spoken about those,
which is funny.
Not going to do it.
Well, yeah, it's actually kind of funny, because like even though this is like being published several weeks down, like it still feels weird to talk about it. Like, hey.
Yeah.
We do take,
just in case something weird happens,
we do take that stuff kind of seriously. So I will say though, the card is cool. You've already seen it by now. I think it's cool. Does everyone else think it's good? I don't know. I think it's good. It's got great art. It's got a cool succubus lady on it. They definitely gave me that card very like targetedly. Like here's an assassin majestic that also has like a cool succubus lady on it, and I'm like,
the art in this set is going kind of crazy, and that's all I'm going to say about mine.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for hanging out with us for this sort of shorter episode. And yeah, we're gonna be back on like the regular Living Legends podcast train next week, talking all about Part of the Mist Veil. Definitely look forward to it, and we'll see you all then. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh wait, do we do Shills? Shills, go follow Az and Bill at their things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders at Bill TSF. That's this guy. I don't know where he is in the thing, but Az from Go Again Gaming.
that's right.
Yep, you got it.
That's
You
all
got
we
it.
need.
Yep. And then there's the other stuff for me, whatever it's like here and stuff. Red Zone Rogue.
Yeah.
Thanks again. We appreciate you.
Cheers.
All right, bye.
I love you guys. Bye.
Right.